What I hear in these messages are a refusal to recognize my son's condition for what it is, a language disorder requiring services. Because my son has strengths, is verbal, and does not exhibit aggressive behaviors at school, it feels to me as though he is being passed over for services that he needs to be prepared for his future. My experience has also been characterized by delay. I had a meeting earlier this year, January 9th, where the child study team agreed to evaluate him for speech again. But then they required an audiology exam and report, delaying the evaluation by a month. It is mid-March now. I still have not heard back regarding the evaluation date, over 30 days after I signed the consent form for evaluation. At this rate, even if he is evaluated and approved for services, the earliest he would receive services would be in late April. That means almost a year will have passed since early intervention ended, and this at such a critical age for speech development. I assume and know that everyone has the best intentions. My experience with the child study team has been very positive, actually, and everyone has been very professional and clearly very hardworking. I also appreciate the enormous challenge of serving so many children with special needs. I believe more resources are needed to help students with language disorders to access speech services, and in addition, a more nuanced perspective of how a developmental condition can present in a child is needed. I come before the board today to ask you to please carefully consider the current resources available for the child study team. I understand that the addition of speech therapists has been under consideration and maybe has already been hired. And I also think more administrative support is needed for better communication with parents. I also know that sensory processing differences were briefly addressed at the last meeting, and I am learning about it myself. An occupational therapist can help a child like my son improve their ability to participate in the classroom. And I'll give you an example that just happened this week. At my son's first occupational therapy session, I saw my son color an entire page completely, much more than I have ever seen him color. The therapist told me that she had observed that he needed to be more aware of his hands, so she had him find objects in a sensory bin full of beans. She then gave him the coloring page again, and he was able to color the entire page. It was like magic. I would never have known. But this is how important and effective awareness of a child's sensory needs can be to his or her education. I hope more attention can be placed on the sensory needs of children with special needs, and that it will be considered a basis for receiving occupational therapy, even for kids who pass all of the other milestones like cutting and coloring and sitting through class. I believe that a more nuanced understanding of speech disorders, other disabilities, including gross and fine motor skills, and sensory processing disorders is needed so that children are provided with the services that they need to flourish and thrive in this district. Thank you for your time.
Best to answer the questions in the order that I think I tried to write them down. So to Ms. Rivera, number one, the pre-K will again be free. We are obviously permitted to offer that to 90 students at this point as per our application. I have reached out to the Department of Education because we know there's a wait list to see if they would grant us additional seats. Clearly, we would require additional money from them. Of course, they would immediately tell us run it if there was no money, but they need to see if there's money that they can allocate to that. As far as summer IEPs, absolutely, 100%. If it is in an IEP, children will receive services in the month of July. Usually we start, because teachers are required to work 185 days, they usually are required to work 2 additional days at the end of our school year. So after those 2 days, we usually start our summer programs. We are tentatively looking at some start dates. What I've always done in my 10 years of superintendency is at the April meeting, we discuss when our projected graduation dates are. And at that point, we can make assumptions as to when summer school will begin. Number 3, as far as field trips, I know ideally, as the warmer weather months come before us, we see more and more field trips. Tonight we saw a whole group of them. This is not solely, I know it looks like they're mainly high school trips. There was, I think, some for Lindbergh today. I know children from out in Lindbergh will go to Peak next month, so these are very exciting times that we're getting back to that, normal routine. But I can guarantee to you that we will be continuing field trips across the board for all students, so long teachers request it and it is aligned to our curriculum. As far as the bathroom goes, I can tell you on record, whatever facility we are in, we need to make sure that the bathrooms are functioning. And we are definitely going to have to use this facility regardless of whether we go elsewhere or not. Speaking of going elsewhere, the plan to move pre-K, I don't know who started it, maybe the same person that said I was leaving. But I'm not going anywhere, and nor is the pre-K. Now, can we fit 6 more classes in this building right now?
No.
I'm not sure where they would go. I have said publicly, we have to look at other providers in Palisades Park. I have gone to those providers. I have engaged in conversation. I thank Mr. Kim for assisting me in this endeavor. Regardless, I can't go and sign any agreement before the board agrees, the attorneys involved in negotiations, but before the state says you have additional space and students, it's all a moot point. There is no plan to move all of pre-K out of here. To Ms. Neris. Regarding the incident at the high school, I can't go into the confidential nature of the incident, but I can tell you that I, the administration at the high school, and this board acted immediately. We obviously worked very closely with the police department. This was a very concerning period in our schools. I can go on record and tell you that without going into too many details.
That's good.
That's good. I was advised to say that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Regarding the fence at Lindbergh, I was told that Mr. Spalazzo speaks about the fence at other meetings as well. What I can tell you is that I am not in a place to spend our money because we don't have much to spend on a new fence.
It's not a new fence, it's Mr. Velasco, it's the locker.
So
Neri,
Neri, we can't go back and
Yeah,
forth
but
here.
I
know,
want
we
you
talk
to
after.
guys know that it's not
So
the
is it the
fence.
gate that the children
Yes,
are
it's
entering?
locked,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
That's it, simple.
So it's not
okay.
the fence, it's the
Saying
gate.
that the gate is locked.
Yeah,
Got it. Here's the issue.
that's it.
Here's the issue. I've talked to the police department. We can't just leave these areas unattended. We need to have supervision. I can't open up our schools because I understand there's not enough playgrounds. I wish there was more, but I also know we need to work together. There's a school safety committee that's formed. I will take board
But
members.
they still go inside.
We can't go back and forth.
I know, but if they
We
still
can't.
go inside.
Okay, I
So
apologize.
leave it open.
Call the police.
That way
I
they
can't
can
leave it
go.
open. I can't leave it open.
Why?
It's a threat and it's a liability to the Board of Education.
Dr. Cirillo, if I may interject. I
We
agree
can't
with
have
Eric.
audience participation.
I also live
This
on-
is, somebody's gonna break the
I
leg
also
of
live on
neck
There's
or
a
something
borough
there.
ordinance on the
No.
fence that says it's open every night till 8 o'clock and it's never.
Guys,
So now it's not,
They have to sign there, okay.
Okay, so it's, can you just wait?
as far as space goes, with regard to the pre-K program, again, there is no plan to move Lindbergh kids back to the ECC. There is no discussion of that. I've never even entertained that thought right now. I need to think about where I'm putting an additional 90 children by September of 2024. Field trips, similar to the answer I just provided, if any teacher goes to their school supervisor and or administrator with a rationale, we always have approved field trips. We know that a textbook, a laptop, a Chromebook is not the sole method of instruction. There are many ways to teach children, and by way of, again, attending a facility that could be very instructional, for any grade is beneficial. Ms. Cho, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the kind words. I knew there was another piece coming. Regardless, not in a joking matter, I can tell you wholeheartedly that you and I will speak again tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Not only will you and I speak, I already sent the message to our director. I need to expedite everything and anything we can do
Thank you.
for your son, regardless of that. I think that the point that really resonates with me is the language disorder piece that may or may not be identified by way of services. And I can't change what the code speaks to, but I know I can offer, by way of our team, additional services. And if we can get that in an IEP, I know it's a legal document. If it works, why aren't we helping? We are actively seeking a speech therapist. I said it last month.
Okay.
I say it again today. Next year's budget, we'll talk about it during our budget hearing,
Okay.
is inclusive of another speech therapist in our district. There's a +1.
So is there one already now and you're
There's,
seeking another?
there's 3 right now,
Okay,
full-time. We are now servicing, and the answer I just received was, our new speech therapist, who is part-time from an agency, started last week. We've already started to make up some sessions and are accounting for each missed session as a one-to-one.
So the speech therapists, they travel to school, to schools or just stay?
So there's some that are designated to a school and some are shared. But there is a +1, so we will be at 4 in September. And as far as the administrative support, again, I think communication is critical. I think clearly there's been maybe a disconnect here,
Yeah.
and I mean this sincerely. I know we've talked in the past, we've met in the past. If this ever happens again, please don't hesitate to call me,
Thank you.
okay?
Appreciate it.
We do have closed session, and we do have formal action after.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to close audience participation.
We're closed audience.
Oh, yeah, to close the audience participation.
Motion to go into closed session.
Can I make a motion to close, audience participation?
make a motion to go into
What
closed
close?
session.
Yeah.
To go into the closed
Second.
I make a motion to go into closed session.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.